We continue from the previous episode. Xiao Yao stood up and said firmly, "Your Majesty, to be honest, the woman I love is none other than Princess Eufa." He repeated, "Your Majesty, Emperor Yu, the one I admire is not any other woman, but Princess Eufa herself." The entire hall fell silent. The third prince, Jialuo, took a sip of wine and said coldly, "Are you trying to steal my bride from me?" The third young master of the general's manor, daring to slap this prince in the face. General Toba Yuntian's expression twisted in shock. You ungrateful brat. What nonsense are you saying?" Toba Qingyu and Toba Lingqiong stared at him in stunned silence. Emperor Yu Tianhe's fury erupted. He slammed his hand on the table, his aura bursting forth. "You've got some nerve," he roared. Then, in a harsh tone, he declared, "It's impossible. I will never hand Eufa to you. Forget it." His voice grew colder. "Since you insist on testing my patience, guards, take him to prison." Under the crushing pressure, Xiao Yao's expression hardened. "Eufa, in our past life, you risked everything for me, even your life," he thought. "In this life, I'll face any danger. I will never let you down." General Toba Yuntian rose in anger. "Your Majesty, this rebel." But Emperor Yu Tianhe cut him off sharply. "Silence." Xiao Yao's sisters called out in fear. "Third brother." Someone in the crowd sighed softly. "That Toba Xiao Yao, truly foolish. He had such a bright future." Another whispered, "He's refused the imperial marriage twice, and now he dares to propose to Princess Eufa? With the third Prince Jialuo and young Master Chong both here. Isn't he just embarrassing His Majesty?" Eufa's face paled as she glanced at Xiao Yao, a bead of sweat sliding down her cheek. Then, breaking the tense silence, Gu Changge's calm voice echoed through the hall. "Princess Eufa, you don't seem very surprised by young Master Toba's decision, do you?" Gu Changge's voice carried through the tense hall. "It seems Princess Eufa and the third young master of the Toba manor share quite a close relationship." Eufa was caught off guard. She quickly tried to explain herself before her father, the emperor. "I didn't." But Emperor Yu Tianhe's gaze darkened as he interrupted. "Eufa, it seems you've been hiding much from me." Her face turned pale. "I didn't mean to, father. I had my reasons." "Enough!" Emperor Yu Tianhe's voice thundered. "Save your explanation. From today onward, you are grounded. Without my permission, you are not to take even half a step outside the palace." Eufa lowered her head, her voice trembling. "Yes, father." As she stood there, her thoughts swirled. What is happening today? Everything feels unreal, all of this, because of his actions. Yu Tianhe let out a heavy sigh. "I must apologize for this disgraceful scene. I never imagined such a thing would happen. How humiliating." He turned toward Gu Changge, shaking his head in disappointment. Gu Changge chuckled softly. To think Toba Xiao Yao would make such a bold declaration in front of everyone, quite unexpected. Then his smile turned cold. "I once admired his talent, but now, he'll only be a burden." Eufa's eyes widened in horror, a chill running down her spine. Yu Tianhe exhaled deeply before turning to the third prince. "As for the marriage you proposed, I will consider it and give you my answer in 5 days. I am weary. Everyone may leave." The third Prince Jialuo gave a faint smile. "Of course, we will follow His Majesty's command." As the court dispersed, Emperor Yu Tianhe walked ahead through the courtyard. His expression hardened. "Has the person been secured?" he asked coldly. The minister beside him bowed and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, is already under control. No matter how strong he is, escape is impossible. But, we don't understand why Your Majesty is so furious. Is it because of Toba Xiao Yao?" Yu Tianhe scoffed coldly. "At the hunting tournament, the strength Toba Xiao Yao displayed couldn't possibly belong to someone of his current rank. We couldn't question him freely before, but now, this is the perfect chance to uncover his secrets." The scene shifts. Gu Changge hummed softly to himself as he stepped into his manor. Behind him, Ada quietly closed the door. Just as Gu Changge was about to move forward, his gaze flicked to the rooftop, where Saintess Chuchu stood waiting. In a flash, he vanished and reappeared behind her. "What's the matter, Boss Jiang?" he asked casually. Saintess Chuchu turned slightly, her tone calm but sharp. "So, you're the heir of the human ancestor hall. Young Lord Chong. Weren't you just enjoying dinner with that prince from the eternal overcast kingdom? Done already?" Gu Changge smiled faintly and sat beside her. "Are you upset?" Chuchu lowered her head. "I wouldn't dare," she replied softly. I'm not like you or Ming Kong. I can't afford to lose my temper with you. Gu Changge wrapped an arm around her shoulders and sighed. The matter with the eternal overcast kingdom isn't something brute force can solve. It requires patience. Rushing in would only cause trouble. He looked at her gently. Do you believe me? Saintess Chuchu nodded silently. After a pause, she lifted her gaze. Have you always known about Toba Xiao Yao and Princess Eufeia's relationship? Gu Changge smirked. Of course I knew. Otherwise, would I have arranged that marriage for him? Resting her head on his shoulder, Chuchu asked softly, then why target him like this? You shouldn't have even known who he was before all this. Gu Changge's eyes darkened. Because the sword of world domination is in his possession. Chuchu raised an eyebrow, amused. The sword of world domination. Gu Changge nodded. He's been concealing his true power all these years to avoid my notice. Unfortunately for him, I saw through it during the hunting tournament. Gu Changge's smile faded into a cold smirk. If he had just handed it over honestly, I wouldn't have minded letting him go. But even now, he dares to oppose me. Saintess Chuchu glanced at him calmly. You didn't really have to tell me all this. Gu Changge leaned in close, his voice soft against her ear. I never planned to hide anything from you. When even my greatest secret is known to you, what do these little things matter? Her ears flushed red as he added teasingly. Besides, we've been together for so long, we're practically an old married couple. Flustered, she turned her face away. Who's your old wife? Isn't your fiancé you Ming Kong? Gu Changge chuckled, leaning even closer. Ming Kong is, of course. But tell me, don't you want to marry me? Saintess Chuchu's eyes widened, then softened with a faint smile. You'd actually marry me? Gu Changge's expression turned mock serious. What's this? Planning to abandon me after toying with my heart? Chuchu laughed softly, then threw her arms around him. I'm willing. Their lips met briefly before Gu Changge whispered. That's right. If you stay with me, there's no need to worry about anything. I'll handle it all. Chuchu smiled shyly. But, Adao is still watching. Gu Changge smirked. It's just a kiss. What does he know anyway? Adao stood frozen nearby, utterly clueless about what he was witnessing. The scene shifted to Gu Changge's inner manor. Seated calmly on his chair, Gu Changge said, Right now isn't the best time for you to visit me. Yuenzing stood before him, his tone bold. I need an explanation. Gu Changge lifted his cup, taking a slow sip of tea. An explanation, for what? Yuenzing's voice was sharp and direct. Young Master Chong, I agreed to cooperate with you out of sincerity. Once I claimed the throne of the great Yu Celestial dynasty, I swore an oath before my Dao heart that I'd surrender it to you willingly. He stepped closer, his eyes burning with accusation. Yet you refused to tell me why you had me call off the assassination. Have you forgotten our agreement? Or are you working with Emperor Yu to bring me down? Maybe you'd rather become Yu Tian's virtuous son-in-law. Gu Changge's gaze turned icy as he stared at Yuenzing. So, you came all the way here in the middle of the night just to question me. Yuenzing clenched his jaw. I wouldn't dare. I only came to demand an explanation. Gu Changge lifted his head slightly, his tone calm but cutting. An explanation. He paused, then continued coldly. It's nothing serious. I told you to call off the plan because your actions were interfering with my own affairs. Yuenzing's eyes widened. Your affairs, he repeated, his voice rising with anger. What could possibly be more important than the assassination? Gu Changge remained unfazed. You don't need to know. Just wait for my orders. Yuenzing's expression hardened. Then I won't trouble you any longer, he said stiffly. I'll carry out the plan myself. He turned toward the door, but it sealed shut with a sudden surge of power. His face twisted with fury. What do you mean by this? Gu Changge slowly stood, one hand clasped behind his back. Did I say you could leave? His voice was cold and commanding. Once you've boarded my ship, you don't get off without my permission. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Did you really take me, Gu Changge, for some kind-hearted fool? Yuenzing's expression darkened. Seems I've been too humble. You think I'm someone to be toyed with. He stepped forward, his aura flaring violently. I've held back out of respect, Gu Changge, but that doesn't mean I don't have a temper. If we're talking sheer strength, even Yu Tianhe isn't my match. Gu Chang's eyes narrowed, his voice dropping into a low, dangerous tone. And here I thought you were a smart man. His pupils glowed a deep violet, followed by a blinding surge of purple light that filled the manor. Moments later, as the glow faded, the door creaked open. Yu Changge stepped out silently. Yu Changge's face was bruised and swollen as he staggered toward the door. Behind him, Yu Chang's cold voice echoed through the hall. I don't like people who think they are too clever for their own good. Go back and wait for my orders. Yu Changge lowered his head. Yes, he muttered before disappearing into the shadows. The scene then shifts to the underground prison, where Xiao Yao sat cross-legged, his body covered in wounds. While meditating, he whispered to himself, my injuries have recovered about 70 to 80%. Still, I acted too rashly. I've probably brought trouble to Eufa. He let out a faint sigh. Back then, in front of everyone, if I had said I liked Gu Changge instead, could I have gotten away with it? Emperor, you wouldn't have made things so hard for me, right? At least I could have disgusted Gu Changge. Why didn't I think of that sooner? A cold tear in space suddenly appeared before him. Gu Changge stepped out from the void, his eyes sharp as blades. If you'd actually said that, he said with a smirk, I would have cut you in two on the spot and fed you to the dogs. Xiao Yao froze, his expression turning grim as Gu Chang's presence filled the prison with an oppressive aura. If you enjoyed the episode, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. See you next time.